Okay. So here we are for this long-awaited interview.
Yes.
So I have the PDF of the questions. So it's up to you to what extent you want to read them all or whatever, but you probably ought to say something at the beginning because it's your show, right? So yeah.
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 No, I was actually just reflecting on how circular this course has been because you interviewed me so that I could join the course, and now as we're near the end, I'm interviewing you. So I think that's a pretty neat sort of uh, dynamic, I suppose. But
Yeah. And we've been lucky, you know, because if Elon Musk hadn't tweeted this tweet, your doomsday scenarios are being read by the AI, then we'd be talking about a situation where we don't know whether anything we're talking about is really going to be consequential, right? That maybe nobody will notice this. And, you know, I have these ideas, but they don't catch on and so on. That tweet kind of guarantees relevance of what we're talking about here because Elon Musk, that single line, you know, is sort of riveting. It suggests, doesn't it, that the Eliezer Yudkowsky list of lethalities will be widely known in the database in the training set for large language models. And so they will all have the knowledge of those 43 bolded paragraphs of how AI can kill humans, right? So it sort of makes our other point of view, the utopian or protopian or good AGI, whatever level you want to put it at, but the idea that things could turn out really well for humans becomes a really advantageous idea to promote, even if it's wrong. And think about my culpability if I push something that turns out to be wrong. Well, Eliezer has done such a good job promoting his side that we don't have to worry that nobody will know that there's a possibility that things could go wrong, right?
yeah.
So and it's also nicely polite. He has never said anything unkind about me, and I've never said anything unkind about him. I think I'm happy that he exists in the world. He has ideas that I can counter and argue with, and he's probably secretly happy that I exist. So he won't be afraid that people are only thinking about the negative
Well, I think that's
outcomes.
how we move this discussion forward, and certainly having somebody like Elon Musk, who is, for all intents and purposes, a celebrity,
Yeah,
it really brings to the forefront the discussion that really we've been having and you've been promoting for a very long time, but
right.
it's maybe been less out in the open. Now it sort of brings it to the forefront that the layperson um, becomes
Right.
aware of it. And I
People
think
who
this
are
is
not
where,
naturally interested, but
yeah,
who encounter that tweet might decide to look into this and wow, this sounds like the whole
yeah,
human race's future
yeah.
could be on the line here, you know?
And that's where I
So
think
yeah,
I just think the timing of it is really good because at the beginning of the year you suggested that the next 3 months or so, 2.5 months, are going to be a very big time for AI advancement. And then we
right,
have this tweet, and then we have sort of what comes next. And so
right,
I think the
right.
timing, it sort of fits very nicely sequentially
Yeah.
for promoting our ideas.
So some of your first questions asked about my role in medicine. So, like,
Yeah.
let's think about that for a moment. Um, how did I come up with this list of 24 challenges of the human race? Well, this interest in the challenges of the human race go back with me a very long time. In 1988, I formed something called the International Society of Nephrology Commission on Acute Renal Failure, and we developed a worldwide task force to react to the kidney failure following earthquakes. And when I was chair here, I would temporarily suspend all my pathology chair duties and just focus on the earthquake if it looked like our task force needed to be employed. And so that then gives me an interest in kind of helping the human race with like specific problems, right? And
Right.
then in these two grants, we thought of listing the problems, and then Marcus Hutter, who's an AI scientist who's been part of the course all 12 years. Even in 2011, when I started the Technology and Future Medicine course, he, with his unusual ideas as an AI scientist in Australia, was already a part of the course. And it was Marcus Hutter who suggested that we make this an all-inclusive list by including things like unknown unknowns and
Yeah.
other and so on. So my interest in technology generally comes from generating consensus worldwide, starting when I first came to Canada as chair of PATH here in 1987. And so there was the Acute Renal Failure Commission. There was the Future of Pathology Laboratory Medicine in Canada Consortium. I was concerned when I got here that none of the laboratory leaders had any contact with politicians at all. Like politics and medicine
Right.
did not interact. And I knew that wouldn't work long term. So I I started this consortium of laboratory medicine leaders. We met in Mississauga, not a very romantic place, not anywhere close to the beauty of Banff, but it sort of gave me practice in generating consensus, and I was really bad at it at the beginning, but you know, I got better. And you have to use technology, whatever is the cutting edge of technology. And so it was fax in the beginning before the internet. And then when the internet came in 93, 94, I was, a pioneer sending the first kidney biopsy images and, starting the first websites in kidney medicine, kidney pathology, so on, and then kind of broadened that from kidney medicine to cyber medicine generally. Yeah, so that's kind of the long range history going back. And I started promoting this idea of having a course at a university level that would teach about the future and our relationship to AI. And eventually it became clear that since I was a full-time faculty member here, rather than trying to push somebody else to start such a course, I should start it. And so that's what happened 2011, 2012. So the previous interview of me by Nolan Carter occurred in the third term that we ran the course. So in the fall of 2012. And it wasn't very AI focused, was it? It was kind of,
Right. I did. Yeah.
yeah, it was different from what this will be. It was very, pathology focused, talking about digital pathology and how exciting that was, and indeed at that time it still is, but now AI, of course, it is very much a part of that. Now, the immediate background of recent events has to do with this video from June 17th, 2022, which is my most popular video ever in terms of the number of thumbs up and so on. And so it's also quite well done in terms of the sort of background technology in the video. And a few days after that video was published, this article appeared by Benzon, Where Are the AI Utopians? And I realized how unique and singular the idea for truly utopian outcome is. There are very few people who are talking about that, pushing for that. But if you consider Eliezer Yudkowsky's very scary 43 bolded paragraphs, it makes sense to at least use the word utopia, even if you think it would be hard to achieve, just to show that the opposite side, something very, very good, is as likely, maybe, as something very, very bad, which Eliezer has been talking about in great detail.
And so why is it that you think people are so reluctant to talk about the utopian possibility? Because
Well,
people will be very quick to judge AI as a doomsday
yeah,
device, something that'll lead to the end of humanity. Why
right.
don't they talk about the other side of it?
Well, I think part of it has to do with the idea of, if utopia is human created, then it is commonly associated with religion, religious strife, strong prejudice between groups of humans, and so on. So that was the objection a few days after this article about Where Are the Utopians came out. Yuval Noah Harari came out with a video short about how bad it is to consider utopias, that it'll just get you into trouble and so on. And I think if you only consider human created utopias, there is that possibility that, yeah, it can polarize things and really make for more conflict. But you can imagine that, machines might be able to create utopias for humans better than what humans could do, and without that conflict and strife. So I think if you consider things more broadly, that when machines are smarter than we are, they can maybe successfully create a utopia for humans that would actually work and would be fair and equitable and so on. The idea of protopia, as a lot of people use it, is sort of an excuse for not being fair, right? Saying, well,
Right.
protopia is things moving in the right direction, but we don't really share the wealth equally, and people are still slightly disadvantaged, but overall the human condition is fairly good.
Mhm.
But maybe you don't need that kind of excuse if machines could create something much better than that, that would actually be equitable, would be fair, would be something that almost every human being on the planet could benefit from. So that was my idea. I'm going to look back at your list here and see.
So one of the things I just wanted to touch on is when you think about I guess the time where you grew up, you were sort of in the arc of Moore's Law. If you think about the graph of Moore's Law,
Sure.
you witnessed sort of, let's take for example, the internet. You were present in a time where there was no internet, to a time where it was a very sort of fledgling concept, to a time now where it is involved and impacts sort of every aspect of our life. And you could take any sort of technology that we use today and we can apply that to sort of your existence over
Right.
your lifespan. So how I guess how has your idea or your view of the world changed based on that sort of trajectory of the technology that you lived through?
Yeah. Well, I kind of think that maybe the first thing like AI were those Mormon pageants in Palmyra, New
Right,
York,
right.
that as a little kid, my friend's father uh, took me to. I'm not sure how many times we went, maybe two or three, but if you read the history of that pageant in 1973, they decided to no longer have missionaries there. And so
Mhm.
I was there before that. And what I distinctly remember as a thing that made both the adults and the kids uncomfortable were these missionaries coming around trying to, convert you to this particular Mormon religion, and how sort of uncomfortable and inappropriate that seemed. But it's
Right.
not unlike other sort of conflicts, right? About AI and various opinions about AI and people pushing one idea or another. And the pageant was very grand in scale. If you think about things at the beginning, there was a time before stereo, right? The guy who discovered stereo sound participated in making the sound system for that pageant. And there were many other firsts like that. So it was really high tech for its day, both in terms of the sound and the lighting and the storyline. So I think in a way it prepared me for these bigger questions later on when I became aware of AI. Um, and the idea of human cooperation was kind of a recurring theme in my life, even before the AI connection to it became really clear. Um, so if you think about like my interaction with the AI community, I guess I know more about the real world, maybe the real medical world, and what things AI might actually accomplish, like are on
Right.
this list of the big 24 challenges. That's an area of medicine and life in general that I have had a strong interest in. And what's interesting now, of course, my excitement about what would happen in early 2023 came from some videos of Sam Altman predicting how much progress there would be, saying that in 2023 we might see 500 years of progress in a
Yeah.
single year. And so
And,
what
and
would
do you
that?
think Do you think we're just sorry to interrupt, but do you think we're on track for that?
No, I have an
Okay.
idea now of what 70 years of progress would be because I've sort of lived that, right? So,
Right.
um, and lived it in a sense that, at the age of 7, I could kind of conceptualize worldwide things, the coronation of Queen Elizabeth and other big things like that. So I don't think we're going to see 500 years progress in a single year, but maybe we'll see 70. I don't know. But so what would that mean, though, if we're really making a lot of progress? If you think about these 24 areas of challenges of the human race, am I saying that we should make a specific AI project for each of the 24? What I'm really thinking instead is there would be spillover, that this potent AI progress is going to change everything for everybody, make us effectively more creative, um, more productive, generating more ideas, sort of conceptualizing things better, because it sort of adds to our biological selves, right? When we um, search for something on GPT-4 or on Chat GPT or on the successors of those, we're likely to quickly get beyond what our own biological selves can naturally do to an ability to put our name on something that's better than anything we could write or draw or conceptualize, right?
Right.
And so that spillover would mean that progress in all 24 areas maybe would be increased because the humans working in those areas have this spillover effect of the AI increasing creativity, productivity, idea generation. And I think that might be quite real. And so you ask here what might come in the next 70 days or 7 months or 7 years. I'd really like to see an example of that sort of a spillover where it's not that an AI project specifically designed in one of these areas became productive, but an area that had no AI project at all had some bright ideas occurring that probably in ordinary circumstances would never have happened. But because of the rapid progress of AI and the effective creativity, productivity, and idea generation going up so much, that's the reason that we began making progress in these areas, had remarkable insights beyond what our biological selves are capable of. And
And so
um,
would you argue that with the COVID-19 pandemic, we've already seen some of that? Because if you look at the vaccine,
right,
that's
it went
the
much faster.
timeline was,
Yeah,
yes. So
yeah,
would you argue we're already seeing some of that occurring?
yeah. I think it would be something like that, but probably faster because we didn't have the full AI effect during
Right,
that
right.
time. Yeah, so and we could see that in any area of human endeavor. I kind of hope it occurs in xeno transplants, pig to human uh, transplants. It's an area of special interest to me that
Right.
seems to be almost beyond human intellectual capability to kind of conceptualize what all the problems and challenges might be. So you would think that under ordinary circumstances, maybe we just couldn't get there. But maybe because of this AI spillover effect, we will get there. And really, I don't care what it is. If there's anything that supports this idea of AI spillover, kind of accidental increase in insight and creativity and productive ideas that make us look like there are a lot more percentage of geniuses in the crowd than there were before, Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Um,
And so when you predicted, I guess originally it was 60 exciting days of AI. We've sort of adapted it to 70
right.
for the purposes of our mostly because of GPT-4 coming out on the 14th.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you I suppose how would you grade your initial prediction? Would you say that it was an exciting 70 days? Would you say it was an
Yes.
underwhelming
Yeah.
70 days?
And I think the other thing is one would say, well, why stop at 70?
Right.
So Bard just was released to the public today, not to most
Hmm.
of the public, to a select part of the
Right.
public today. So why don't I include today? Well, I think Bard and Google generally is a more conservative enterprise. There probably won't be such spectacular breakthroughs right away because they're worried about the whole thing going wrong. And
Hmm.
so I think in that sense, there probably will be more exciting stuff occurring between January 3rd, when I gave that talk to our residents here, and then March 14th, then like the subsequent 70 days or the 70 days after that. I I really think things and sort of the impact of on ordinary humans, people with children who had homework to do, right? All those people were impacted by the possibility now that your kids wouldn't have to actually do their own homework anymore ever.
Right.
They
Yeah.
could just get Chat GPT to do it, which yeah. So whoever imagined something like that?
And
So
so, yeah,
the
go
other
ahead.
side of this is my friendship with Rich Sutton, to just sort of touch on that a bit. So um, I started writing AI poetry in 2015, largely stimulated by my interaction with him. And that summer, he and I went to the Strathern Summer Festival. You probably know that Strathern is one of the suburbs of Edmonton, and they have a summer festival with
Yep.
poetry and other things. So it was kind of cool. I had a video camera, and I went around the festival reciting poetry about AI, and Rich Sutton would occasionally comment on my AI poetry, and we had a heck of a good time, and it paid off the next year. The next year was a big deal, AI wise, because it was the year of AlphaGo. And on the
Hmm.
day of the big success for AlphaGo, of course, it occurred in like South Korea and so on. So time zones way ahead of ours. So the evening of that day of the AlphaGo success, the night was still young for Rich Sutton when he joined our Future and All That Jazz performance, which is something that we put together because students seem to want something between terms. It's a long time waiting between
Right.
April and September, if you really get hooked on the course. So we had the idea of taking like important but unpleasant subjects in science, maybe things that the average student wouldn't sit still for a lecture on, and putting it in poetry and music and accidentally teaching people the same stuff and calling that the future and all that jazz. So Rich Sutton at the end of that one of the peaks of his professional career, where these people he had trained succeeded in getting computers to solve Go, and in such a beautiful fashion, like 10 to 12 to 15 years earlier than anybody ever thought that was possible. That night he came and joined us for the future and all that jazz. And then when I came up with the idea of an AGI utopia or AI utopia, and that being equally likely to an AI apocalypse of the sort that Eliezer Yudkowsky has been talking about, he supported that idea. And it's only because he supported it that I actually made that video and sort of kept on working on it. Then I gave an AI seminar in computing science on August 5th on the same subject. And I have been really thinking that you asked what comes next for Kim Solez. Well, that's kind of an interesting question. If you think from the point of view of the students in the course, what's the downside of Kim Solez's current situation? It's really clear. There's no way most of you can come visit me during the day because I work in the hospital. You don't have AHS ID cards, so you can't get to where I am, So that's not very good. So because all my professional life earlier, going back to like 1973 and so on, I've always been surrounded by young people, and I love that. And I think I've benefited very much from that. So that will be possible again after July 1st, 2024, because I'm going to step down from doing kidney pathology service work at the end of June 2024 and move to an office in the 5th floor of ECHA for, emeritus faculty. And I think that one of the advantages is the students in the course will be able to come visit me. You can have a desk in the same office and be working on stuff with me the way most of my life has been. When I was in 5B309 up here, we had as many as 7 students sharing that office with me, and it was really a very, very enjoyable interaction. So I look forward to that again. And when I step down from doing kidney pathology service work, I'll have more time for the AI stuff and the projects that we're talking about here, and for things related to the course. I guess most of my activities have been pretty much, directly related to the course, and various spin-offs. Now, today, right after this, we have the 4th lecture on quantum biology. Well, why are there 4 lectures? That's because it was suggested to me that we need international peer review of the course. And what the peer reviewer said is our one quantum biology lecture was ridiculously overloaded. Like, how could you ever put so much content in a single 80-minute period? That just wouldn't work. Yeah, so that's the reason we went from 1 to 4 lectures. So I'm quite happy that we're constantly innovating in the course. And I think the time capsule is a potent example of that. A lot of the good ideas that we follow are not ideas that I had first. Pram, one of your fellow students, was the person who had the idea of the time capsule, but I I think that's going to turn out very well and sort of enhance everything else that we're doing too. And then I
So
don't know if you,
how many years do you suggest it is before we reopen the time capsule? Like when we have a plaque on it, it says do not open until X date. What date are we
yeah,
putting on that?
yeah. So what has been suggested by my childhood friend is 20 years, which I think would be good. So, and but I don't know when.
Do you think you'll still be teaching this course in 20 years?
I don't know. I could be. Yeah, I would be. Yeah, I wouldn't be
Or I guess
quite
the,
100.
the
I would
reason I
be
asked
in
that
my
is,
late 90s. It sort of
well,
depends.
I mean,
Yeah, people age
the
at
reason I asked
yeah, yeah.
is what topics do you think this course in 20 years will be covering? Do you think we'll be talking about the same things? Do you think we'll still be having lectures on xenotransplantation, on
No,
quantum
I
biology,
think
on
that that's enough time for a lot of sort of divides in the road where either something works or it doesn't work, and so
yeah.
you go on the path that works. No, I think medicine will be very different. It won't be as disease oriented. It'll be more human
Mm.
enhancement oriented. It'll be controversial, some of those enhancements, and yeah, maybe I will be um, taking part in ethical discussions about that. I don't know, but that's my thought that it would be 20 years. Um, and the other question then is whether we can put this guy. Yeah, so I was trying to think of things that I own that I think I'm probably the only one who cares about. So this might be one of them. This is the original Sony Aibo robotic dog,
Oh, the
and
original. Wow.
yeah, yeah. I mean the first one that I had, not the first one that was ever
Right.
produced, but I've had quite a lot of them. Um, but I think one of the things we can discuss at this time capsule session that we're planning to have. What day is that? The April 5th, maybe? Yeah. That's what what kind of things should be in this time capsule? I kind of feel if the things that only I am interested in, they probably don't belong, right? We want something that the people who open the capsule in like 2043 or 2044 would actually be interested in, right? And I'm also wondering how quickly we are going to make the decision of what should be in the time capsule, and whether the Rod Stewart concert at Rogers Place, August 15th, 2023, is going to play any role in that. Now, you may wonder whether anybody's going with me on that. Jack Tazinski, his wife and son are, and my eldest son and his wife, and two work colleagues, and probably a bunch of other people, but those are the people identified. But I sort of felt that that's another way to get input somehow into time capsule and the other things that we're doing from another, constituency. And maybe it's possible that none of the current students in the course even know who Rod Stewart is. That's possible, I can imagine. So, do you know who he is or any of his songs or anything?
Not in
No.
depth. No,
You see?
I've generally heard of him, like
Yeah,
in a general sense, but uh,
right, right.
not in
Well,
any depth.
yeah. What I thought is there's no hurry about finalizing the time capsule. We might as well do it right in a
I
way that
think,
would
yeah,
benefit the people who would open it in 20 years. And so I have a lot of time to sort of consider that. Then the other thing that's of interest also is the Le Mans exchange program, and that has become quite exciting recently. So I was funding all the airfares for that in the past. I don't really think I could continue to do that forever. This was the
yeah,
first time that the people at the France end have decided that they could help with half of the airfares, which is really cool. And so, how does that relate to the other things we're doing? And but it is something else that the students can take part in. Um, if we can find a student who actually knows who Rod Stewart is and would be interested in coming to the concert, then that student, if they've been to Le Mans, could talk about, what the experience was like and so on. And I intend to continue to surprise people. You may say, well, now that you've got the time capsule and, the funded Le Mans student exchange, there can be nothing else new under the sun for the course. I'm sure that's not true.
I hope it's not true.
Yeah, like if you look at this, collage that Prom put together for Future Day,
Yeah,
and think about the moments in the course that sort of led to this. Yeah, I just think there's so much intellectual ferment going on there. There's no shortage of surprising and positive new things that will come out of the course. And I look forward to that. I look forward to that being kind of my main focus along with this AI uh, focus, beyond July 2024, and having some of you guys come and visit me or so we can have some face-to-face
yeah,
discussions.
yeah.
Doesn't all have to be by Zoom. So yeah. So anyway, let me just look at your list here.
Sort of the one personal question, well, not personal, but
Yeah.
interesting to me personally. Um, where do you think, well, I guess I should say I'm uh, expecting at least another 5 years in university for myself. So where do you think with ChatGPT, GPT-4, all the other things that are to come, where do you think the future of post-secondary education lies?
Well, I, I think that it's going to change, but it could change into something that's positively utopian, right? Where new skills you want to learn, you can learn very quickly. Some in a kind of packaged way, where you don't have to learn it. The fact that somebody else has learned it, you can instantly gain that skill. But other things you would learn in a sort of traditional way of learning that people have been doing for thousands of years. And we have a mix of sort of these different, futuristic and time tested ways of learning that could be very, very satisfying. Maybe the university of old would come back where you'd have these um, um, walkways between buildings, and all these great thinkers from different disciplines would talk together, and great things would be created from that human interaction, and then add AI interaction and all the other stuff to it. So yeah, I think that it could turn out very well, but I agree that probably there are big changes coming.
Do you think students should be, do you think present day students should be allowed to use large language models in their work? Because this is a discussion that I've had with other instructors, and it's
Yeah, yeah.
interesting to get their reaction. So
Well,
I'm curious as to what you think.
it's sort of the Wild West period now, right? I mean, we don't really know how this is going to turn out and so on. But in the long run, obviously, yes. I mean, the large language models are the future, and we will figure out how to use them in a way that everybody benefits from. Whereas students still learn things, they learn more quickly because they've got this AI helper, and they maybe retain things better because the learning is more vivid, and like, and more, endorphin flow associated with it, like a good movie or something, right?
Right.
So you can think of a lot of things would be much better than the way post-secondary education is today. Yeah. So um, so I hope this is enough. Do you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think, uh, like I said, I was just kind of hoping to have not so much an interview, but more just a discussion, uh, especially given your, I don't want to say unique, but less adapted viewpoint of AI and the way it's going to impact our future. And yeah, I was hoping to incorporate some of that into the subsequent paper and
Right.
presentation that I have to do. So certainly this is a good sort of foundation for that.
So this is only the start now, because your paper and your presentation are the ideas that you now
Yeah,
have
yeah,
based on this, right? So
yeah.
so I'm looking forward to that very, very much. Okay, well, I think I should probably bring this to a close, and we can
Yeah,
start
we got
the
10
other.
minutes before our next lecture, so I think that's a
Yeah,
good idea.
yeah,
But
cool.
thank you very much for your time, for participating in this. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. Well, we'll see you in 10
See you
minutes
soon.
in the other session.